Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NMP Talk Show. And this evening we have a special guest. She's all the way from England, and we're talking about autism. We were just having a chat just before the start of a show on the misconceptions that are there around. Okay. Sorry about that. The misconceptions that surrounds autism. So we want to delve into that, speak about it and have an understanding on how we can deal with it.
Hey Neo, thanks for having me here. Hey, yeah, I'm from England. I'm non-binary and I use they them pronouns. I'm autistic. I am also awaiting a referral for ADHD assessment as well. So neurodivergence is a big topic for me because of how much it's kind of shaped my life and my experiences. And also, I think that we're used to talking about neurodivergence, and by that I mean, the things that we consider like brain differences, such as autism spectrum, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, dyslexia, all of that kind of thing. And I think we're very used to talking about it from a medical perspective of thinking of it as a disorder. And certainly some people with these things do feel that it's a disorder. But I think for a lot of us, we feel that it's just a natural difference and that, human beings are all different and that there are just certain things that are kind of not talked about and because they're not talked about and we don't understand them, we're more likely to view it negatively or to not really be able to connect with people who are different. So, but as a result, I think once you kind of come to terms with it, actually there can be a huge amount of joy in the community. I belong to a Facebook group called the Autism Comedy Club, and everything that is shared in there every day, it's got thousands and thousands of people, are so funny and often taking what's a polite way to say, taking the mickey out of each other or out of things that we think are funny about us or quirky. So
So yeah, you were talking about the Facebook page that you are part of, where you make fun of each other. Why
yeah.
why would you make fun of each other? Is it
It's more,
Oh.
I think it's more just kind of like having fun with the things about us that we find funny.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of an example, but it might be something like, wanting someone to turn off the radio if they want to talk to us at the same time. But then when we're in maybe driving the car, then we have the music at full volume and things like that. So it's sort of laughing at all of our quirks and how, in certain situations, there are things that we just can't do and that we find difficult, whereas there are other situations where the same rules don't apply. So it's just funny, I think.
Wow. Now you're talking about you're waiting for results for ADHD. How do you cope with these two conditions? I know maybe you're waiting
Well,
for
it's really,
results. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very long referral process, so I haven't even had my assessment yet, but all of my screening results are very high, and my cousin has it, and it looks like my sister has it, and so it's definitely genetic. But it's really funny you should ask that because I find that if you like, for me and for the other people I know who have both autism and ADHD, I feel like we can cope a lot better in a way. One of my friends, she's in her 40s and she's just been diagnosed with ADHD, but she doesn't have autism. So it's almost like because she doesn't have, I mean, obviously I'm generalizing here, but because she doesn't have the need for routine, it means that she finds it more difficult to regulate her ADHD. So, for example, it might get to 9 o'clock at night and she realizes that she hasn't eaten all day. And to
You.
me, yeah, and to me, I think that that's insane. And whereas for me, I need my routine, I'm not, it doesn't have to be to the minute. Um, but I need to eat 3 meals a day, and sometimes if I'm up late at night working on something, then I will eat again. Yeah.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah. So and also, but I think having ADHD as well means that I don't get too stuck in my routines. I
Hmm.
definitely need a really good blend of routine and things that are exciting and spontaneous. Um, so it's definitely been a journey to get that far and to work out how to do that and do it in a way that I'm happy with and is really working for me. But everyone I know who has only autism or only ADHD seem to have a very different experience to me and people who have both.
Mm. Yeah, it's quite a challenge just to think about the things that you have to alter in your life, just to make sure that you deal with a day as it comes. Uh,
Mm.
it's quite a strain.
I guess, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I kind of feel it feels like if I stick to my routines a little, and I'm only
Mm,
talking about like making sure that I have enough sleep and making sure that I eat frequently and that,
mm,
I have regular breaks throughout the day where I can just be quiet, even if it's for like 10 minutes.
yeah.
Um, So I don't know. I guess to someone else that might seem like a difficult thing to manage, but for me, it's the only way I know. So
Mm,
it's
mm.
and I like being me. So it's I feel
You
like
have
all of these
to.
things. Yeah,
You have to be
yeah, you
yourself.
do.
Otherwise, who you gonna be? Huh?
Yeah,
Um, a- and that's
yeah.
that's where the problem comes in. If you want to be like somebody else, and we don't meet up to their level of standard, it frustrates you as a human being. So
Mm,
for myself, I believe you have to be yourself, so that people can also take you as yourself. Because now,
mm,
if you wanna imitate somebody else, then people will look at you like that person that you wanna imitate, and then you just fade away from the community. It's no
mm,
longer Harris. It's no longer Neo. They don't exist because now I'm trying to be somebody else. But I get what you coming from, and I really appreciate it. So when we had a chat before the show, you were talking about your secular work. You're also helping people. Does it also help you to manage your condition by giving to others, by helping others? Does it make you part of the community? Make you feel that way?
I I don't know. I mean, um, so in the sort of world of neurodivergence, and particularly with ADHD people and autistic people,
Mm,
there's a real big conversation around special interests. So special interests, it's the thing that you're obsessed with. So,
mm,
we often joke about, you know, the more obvious ones are people who like love going train watching and they're like obsessed with trains or something like that. Whereas my special interest is definitely around like mental health and how we think about things and, how we can kind of change our brain, like
mm,
in terms of mental health or recovering from trauma or even just thinking about things differently. So the fact that I'm a coach, I do it privately and also for the NHS, which is the National Health Service in the UK. It means that I get to do my special interests constantly, and it's like problem solving. It's like getting into people's
uh,
brains and problem solving. So all the people I help through my day job right now are just normal members of the public. So I really don't know who I'm going to get. They send all sorts of different types of people to me, and it's really fulfilling. Um, but in terms of the private coaching, I don't say that the people who come to me have to have autism or ADHD. It just seems to happen that so far everybody has.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to help people with things that I've overcome, and I'm much more confident and assertive, and I have very good communication now, and lots of really fulfilling friendships and family relationships. So to be able to help other people to thrive who are just like me, yeah, it definitely is very fulfilling.
Yeah. No, I'm also getting fulfilled just listening to you, how you're able to help other people. And you're talking about being consumed in something that you love. My brother-in-law is also autistic. He loves trains. He draws them. He does everything about train. He will tell you stories about train. So it kind of makes me appreciate how loyal somebody can be. You know,
Mm,
for me, when I look at somebody who's autistic, I see loyalty, because once they cling to something that they like or they love, they hold on to it with their all their strength. So for me, that's loyalty there, and it's a good quality, and that's why I
mm,
appreciate people who are autistic, that they are able to do that. I mean, I'm not autistic, but I would love to show that loyalty on something else, something that I love that much or to that degree, that autistic people can show them. And just to tell you a little bit about him, he loves people. If he loves you with all his might. He
mm,
will protect you. He'll do everything for you. He'll call you, send you messages. Me just being a brother-in-law, I get more messages from him than anybody else, which is so great. It makes me feel part of the family too. So um, I just want people to view autistic or autism in a better light. That you
mm,
know these are well functioning people, but to a certain degree, of course. And if you look at them that way, you know how to deal with them. You know how to live with them. You know how to make them happy as well. To enjoy life. So,
mm.
do you have friends? A lot of
I've
friends.
got loads of friends. Yeah, quite a
Loads.
lot. Yeah, so when I was at primary school, like up until the age of 11, I usually only had like two or three friends at a time, and I wasn't very good, I don't think, at making friends or knowing what to do. And then in my teens, when I was at secondary school, I think I got a bit better at that
Mm-hmm.
because I was just faced with more people. And then in my 20s, I really went on this kind of like journey of my own where I did some trauma recovery work, and I trained as an NLP practitioner. So it's a type of coaching basically. And
Yeah. Oh, we lost her. All right. While we're trying to get hold, there she comes in. Okay. Welcome everyone on Telegram channel. We welcome you to the show. If you just join us, we were just talking about autism, and our special guest Harris was just relating how she's dealing with it, and what how the life of helping other people brings fulfillment to him, and he feels very part of the community. So just before we were cut there, Internet can be something else, eh? can
Yeah.
can throw you off course. But yeah, you were saying you like being part of what you're doing.
Mm,
What else can you advise parents, most especially that are raising autistic child?
mm. I think there's a couple of things. I think that because most people's culture or society works a very particular way, and
Mm,
it's very much like, you're expected to go to school, and you're expected to do these subjects, and then you're expected to maybe go to university or get a job or whatever. um, I think that there is a really good opportunity for parents to support their autistic kids in their special interests, because obviously part of your responsibility as a parent is to support your child into developing into someone
mm,
who is good at something enough that they might be able to support themselves. Now, obviously, for the smaller numbers of autistic people who are profoundly disabled, then that might not be an option. But for the majority of autistic folks who um, actually have enough function, then actually they can end up becoming really masters of their subject. So I would massively encourage parents to really trust that the child will naturally end up doing what they're good at and what they're really interested in, and they
mm,
may well become really masters in their subject, and can really, really succeed. But I think where the pitfalls are is that, you know, on average, autistic kids develop a bit differently, and they may not reach certain milestones at exactly the same time as their peers.
mm,
And, so sometimes I think as a parent, as an adult, we can panic and we can worry and we can try to really control the journey of the child, and because we're worried about the outcome. And I think that if we get into that headspace, then actually we might take away the child's ability to forge their own path. And I think that could be a really big mistake.
mm. Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting there. So how did your parents cope raising you?
I think my mum, she's very intuitive, as am I, and I think that she just got me from the beginning.
Mm,
And she worked out that I would get stressed out if I didn't have like a 5-minute warning about something, or she would tell us, this is what we're doing today, or this is where we're going, or you have half an hour to get ready to leave. She was really good, and she was really good at feeding us at like certain times of the day and making sure that our routine was good. So she was really good at that. She was very supportive. Um, and I'm the eldest of three, and I was a very strange child, but very happily strange. And she didn't try to dissuade me from being myself, and I
mm,
really am very thankful for that. My
that's
dad, yeah, but my dad, I think that he's like my sister and me. I think he has the same elements of neurodivergence, but he's not really open to that. So
mm,
um, yeah, it's not really a conversation there. So, but he's definitely got a lot of quirkiness, and he's very fun, and he does lots of he's a very funny guy, and he does lots of things that are naughty or unexpected and a bit cheeky. So
mm.
we definitely enjoy a lot of humor in our household.
That's good. That's good. Now, one of our audience asked a question earlier. they said, why is it so difficult that we don't have institutions readily available for autistic children? Why is it hard to
Mm.
find them?
I mean, I guess the conversation of money and funding comes into it. I mean, it depends what
Mm,
country you're in and what the kind of funding is available for, public um, kind of assistance or, special needs schooling programs and stuff like that. But also, I think the the part of me that is maybe less generous um, would say that actually it's not necessarily in a government's interest to make sure that there is schooling appropriate for children who definitely need extra support in their learning. I, I tend to be of the opinion that schooling, and particularly like a Western model of schooling,
mm,
is really preparing people to be good employees. And I don't know that even if we had, we were supported, I don't know if we as easily make good employees. So I just don't know if the industry, the government, and so on are
ready
super
for that?
interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's very kind of skeptical of me, I suppose. But um, yeah, and I also think that from a measurability point of view, I think if you're going to follow the advice that I gave before about letting a child really develop their own personal interests from early on, then I don't know if a school would be able to kind of come up with the results and the measurability to demonstrate that they're doing a good job if the government, for example, or the schooling authority or whatever wants you to have certain um, results for every single student. And obviously,
Mhm.
if your child or the student is very different and they're not going to do that, then people might not like it.
Yeah. Um, uh, I do get what you're saying. A lot more people are not ready to invest in that. I think they take it as a high risk, you know.
Mm.
Uh, one of our social worker on the show, she's a contributing social worker. I sent this question to her as well, and when she responded, she says, the other problem that we having not many schools or institutions ready to accept autistic children is that first of all, you need people who are qualified to teach autistic people, and not many are qualified to do that. And you need a heart for it because they're not like any other child that you may have in a classroom because of their attention span and all of that. So and it also the budget. Some governments are not ready to, or institutions are not ready to put a budget to have institutions like that, which I find it's very disheartening because you are part of the community and we want you to be part of the community. You have uh, your own roles that you play with us that are very special. So if we can do
Yeah.
anything to assist, somebody who's autistic, I mean, they also are able to be integrated into the community.
Mm.
And and I also like what you do for a living, that you help people, understand issues like those. You talk to them, you encourage them, you coach them, and having people like you on the forefront, standing up for those that can't. You we are able to make a difference. If you didn't tell me that you're autistic, I wouldn't have known.
Mm.
Because
Well, I think that's the bottom line, though. You say that, you need kind of specialist teachers, but I never had any specialist teachers, and
mm,
every autistic person is very different. If you've met one autistic person, you've met just one autistic person.
mm,
And it's definitely, I agree with you. I think I was lucky to have not needed um kind of special help at school, and there are lots of people who do need that help and not getting it. You're
yeah,
completely right. Um, but also, it's the case that so many people are autistic and don't realize. I think, I definitely know that in my country right now, it's only in the last few years that people have started to understand that autism doesn't look like a little
mm,
white boy who can't sit still and doesn't listen and is in his own world. It's
mm,
all of these different children.
mm,
Gender and everything else doesn't come into it, and that can look very, very different. Autistic kids can also be the quietest ones in the class. If someone was clicking their pen behind me when I was a kid, I wanted to like throw a chair at them. So yeah, and but I
quite
yeah,
alive.
I
Eh?
do think it's a very positive. Sorry.
I'm saying it's quite alive.
Mm,
It's quite alive being autistic. And you also mentioned something that you have different. I think you said levels of autism. You cannot class everyone as autistic, and you only have this type of autism. When you Google on the internet and you say autistic, that's what you explain. You see this little white boy looking like this, and it looks like the same person,
mm,
on the internet, and and I think that now is misdirecting, in that when you Google and want to check what is autism, and this is the picture that pops up all the time. That's what you only know about autism. But somebody can be autistic but not look like that. I mean, I'm looking at
mm.
you now. Unfortunately, those on Telegram can't see you. I'm looking at you, and there is no way or no sign of what I see on the internet when I Google autism.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's not super helpful because I've met a lot of people who got diagnosed as an adult and they had
Hmm.
no idea that they were autistic or had ADHD for a long time.
Hmm.
And actually, it's kind of my fault that some of those people made the discovery. And they've had it's taken them some time to adjust to the fact that they are, because they were like, oh, but I always thought I was normal. And I'm like, but you are. It's not, you're still you. And it's, yes, it's different. And it means that you might have to think about maybe some extra things to like look after yourself. But, you know, all of these things, all of these learning difficulties or neurodivergences and things like that are so different. Like it presents in people so differently all the time. And I've met a huge amount of people who are kind of like my parents' age, who are very clearly, ADHD or autistic or whatever, and they have never known, and they've got families and had, good jobs and good careers and, a long successful marriage or something. And it's so obvious to me, but obviously a lot of people are not open to this idea that, it could be anybody, and it's not anything to feel bad about. If anything, I feel it's an opportunity to get to know yourself better, and if you're a spiritual person, to understand even more like how you are made and how magical that is, and that it might bring certain challenges, but it can also bring a lot of other things that you otherwise wouldn't have had access to. I mean, think of all of our great inventors that the human race has had,
Mm.
and all of the people who were obsessed with something to the point that they got so good at it that they could create medicines. And, Albert Einstein was probably autistic, and I think Marilyn Monroe was as well. And there are lots of people throughout history who
Mm.
were part of this community and added some amazing things to the world.
Sure. Here's an interesting question from one of our listeners. She's asking, are you saying autism is different? Like, do we have different types of it? I think you touched on it a little bit, but maybe you can elaborate there.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, it's my understanding that autism is caused by, and I think this is just a theory. I don't know how proven it is, but this makes sense to me, and this is what I see, is that the idea is that autism is caused by having more connections in the brain. So when you're born, when you're a baby, you have lots of connections in your brain. And when you get to around about 6 months, there's supposedly an enzyme that starts to be released that starts to kind of trim all of these little connections in your brain so that over time you have less and less. And the theory is that if you're autistic, either you didn't produce a lot of that enzyme, so you're still
Mm.
you've still retained a lot of those extra um, connections that the brain needs to develop fast, as it does when you're a baby. Or maybe you didn't produce any enzyme at all and you kind of have like the original number or something.
Mm.
Um, so the mechanism is kind of the same, but how it presents is very, very different. And people talk about the autistic spectrum, but it doesn't mean from autistic to not autistic. What it means is that it's a spectrum, meaning that along each part you might have this symptom but not that symptom. It's more like just a mix and match kind of a thing. And because I enjoy communicating and talking to people, I'm considered high functioning. And
Mm.
because I can run a business or um, hold down a job, although in the past that's been difficult. Uh,
Mm.
but because I can do these things that are considered normal, people will often consider me high functioning. But
Okay.
it doesn't quite work that way because all of the efforts that go into doing like quote unquote normal things can be hugely taxing on the person. And it might mean that their energy or their brain function after they've been to work or looked after their children or whatever is so depleted that they stop functioning altogether. So um, yes, every person's autism is going to affect them very differently.
Okay. Very interesting. I never thought it like that. And Hilda, thanks for that question. Because I always thought it was just one type. You don't have type. Either you have it or you don't have it. And when you're saying some of your friends were just shocked later on in life that they discovered that they're autistic and they have no clue about it. I
Mm.
think I'll be those type of friends that will be shocked to say, "Hey, I didn't know I am." But now, how do you identify? I mean, you know what an autistic person feels like. You can identify traits of autistic person. Uh, for me now, who doesn't know very closely somebody who's autistic, how do you identify if somebody is autistic? Like your friends that didn't know that they
Mm.
were, but later on in life they realized they were after they were diagnosed.
Wow. Yeah, I guess it could be somebody who is maybe like academically or in their job, like very gifted, but like socially different I don't know.
Hmm.
It's it's I think it's just looking for those differences and noticing that in some areas somebody might really excel and be excellent at something, but in other areas they just struggle a bit more. I mean, one example is that I learn I learn very well things that are directly and intentionally taught to me, but the things that are not taught to me, I will be scared of and I will avoid, or I will feel like I can't do it. So, for example, when I first moved out of home, I didn't know that I had to pay council tax and gas and electric and things like that. Nobody told me, like, this is what you have to do, and these are the people, and this is roughly how much money it will be. So I was terrified at the beginning as an adult dealing with that.
Hmm.
And, communication, nobody taught me, like, these are the rules of communication. So I had to also go out and learn that. Um, One of the rules I learned was that unless you're giving a speech and people are expecting you to speak for a long period of time, you have to be mindful about how much you're talking and try and keep it short and watch the other person's face to see if they're still engaged.
Hmm.
um, and another sign is that somebody who's struggling at work, it might be that the work that they're doing is fine, but they're just not bonding with the people that they work with.
Sure.
I mean, that could be a symptom of other things as well. It's not necessarily autism, but it is. I think I've been fired from jobs when I was younger, and I was always told, "You've not
Hmm.
done anything wrong. You just there's just something that you're not doing
You
that we
don't fit
want you to
in.
do."
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I was like, but you pay me to do work, and I'm doing that work, and I'm doing it like perfectly, and they're like, yeah, you are doing it perfectly, but we want someone who's going to be really extroverted and like excited about our brand. And I was like, oh no, I can't
Wow.
fake that I can't be dishonest.
Yeah. So do you see, when I say, for me, autism goes along with loyalty. I mean, what you're just saying about your former work, that they expected you to do something, and then you say no, you can't do things like that. I think
Mm,
you are loyal to your standards. And as you're talking now, I was just checking out something on the internet. Speaking about autism, it says, I would quote, it says, stereotyped or repetitive motor movements, use of objects or speech. Example, simple motor stereotypes, lining up toys or flipping objects. And it goes further to say insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routines, and ritualized patterns of verbal or nonverbal behavior. Yeah,
mm.
doesn't this uh, seem like it's similar to ADHD?
There is a big overlap between autism spectrum disorder and ADHD, but the what's happening in the brain is two very different things.
Hmm.
So autism, as I mentioned before, is like the theory is that it's more connections in the brain, and then ADHD is a inability to absorb dopamine to the correct level. Um, so if you've got ADHD, I think there's a roundabout. If you've got ADHD, there's around, I think it's like a 30 to 40% chance that you also have autism. And then if you know that you've got autism, there's a 50-50 chance that you will also have ADHD.
Hmm.
So It's very common to appear together, but they are different. You know, ADHD is about kind of managing your dopamine. So you might get like some people get dopamine hits from using their phones, social media, watching TV. Um, it might be from interaction with other people. Some people manage their ADHD with by getting a pet because they need lots of kind of like touch, because having pets can be really good for your sort of mental health and stuff like that. And then with substances, like someone with ADHD who's naturally trying to self-medicate might eat more food, they might eat more sugar, they might smoke cigarettes, they might drink caffeine and things like that. So it's a different condition, but yeah, they can come together.
So basically, it's taking everything to the extreme.
Not necessarily to an extreme. It's just that
Mm.
in order to kind of try to regulate the brain, there are other things that, you know, you might not even know. A lot of people don't know that they have ADHD,
Mm.
but there's like often, you know, it can be a difficulty with like your organization. It can be difficulty with remembering to eat. Um, it can be forgetting appointments a lot, like leaving the house and going to work or to school and realizing you forgot half of your stuff at home. It's losing objects all the time. It's struggling to listen to people speaking for too long without like zoning out and then like not even listening anymore. It's a difficulty to pay attention to things that you're not obsessed with.
Yeah. You, it's funny that you giving those examples. Those examples would also explain somebody who's suffering from overactive thyroid, and that person, they would have too much energy, and
Mhm.
but they lose concentration. They forget names. They if some, like you're saying, if somebody talks for a long time, they lose attention. They're like, ah, okay, enough is enough. And I'm talking about that because I also suffer from that overactive thyroid, but I think I'm getting it. Um, I'm getting control of it. But
Mhm.
it's quite interesting how you explain autism, and which I've never related at no point with ADHD. And something that you also said, for the sake of those that just join us, um, you said when you have ADHD, there's how many percentage of chance that you would have autism? 30.
I think it's 30 to 40. So if you
30.
already know that you've got ADHD, then there's a
Yeah.
30 to 40% chance that you might have autism. And then the other way around is if you know you've got autism, then there's a 50-50 chance that you have ADHD as well.
Sure. So, yeah, we must get tested all the time. Maybe that's why your friends were like, "Oh, I didn't know I had this." Are
Well,
they
the
not?
thing is as well, if if one of your friends is it quite often happens that friendship groups, if you're neurodivergent, you know, autism, ADHD, whatever, it's quite
Mm,
likely that you will make friends with other neurodivergent people.
mm.
So every single one of my close friends has ADHD and or autism, every single one.
Is
But
it
I didn't
because?
know that.
Mm. Oh, you didn't know? Okay, I thought maybe you literally went out of your way to look for a friend that
No, no, it's totally happened by accident.
is a birds of the same feathers flock together. Hey,
Yes, I think
that's
so.
everything. All right. If you have any comments and you're connecting from Telegram, please you can raise your hand there or unmute yourself and you can ask the question. And we also have audience on the Riverside, the platform that we streaming from. We're also connecting on Twitter. So far, we don't have any questions from the Twitter side. But what we're talking about is, wow, what are we talking about, Harris? Autism. How to deal with it.
Yeah.
We just touched on a lot of things. ADHD. Now I'm confused between ADHD and autism. But we're talking about autism, how we can deal with it. I see
Mm.
Mam Tandi, she's unmuted. Would you like to comment on this?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Can I speak?
Yay.
No?
I've got you.
You okay? All right.
Yes, I can hear you clearly now.
Yeah, shoot. You can shoot, Sister Andy.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I just want to yes, I just want to confirm what she was saying, that sometimes you are diagnosed when you are an adult already that you have this autism. I was phoned by a young friend of mine in the 20s. She said to me, guess what? I said, what? He said, I was diagnosed with autism. I said, is that so? But I'm happy that she accepted that. She just accepted that. She didn't know what was the challenge with her for a long time. And then when she went to this test, I think it's called AQ10 test, something like that, the doctors. And then she said, yeah, I have autism. And then I said, what do you think? Do you think you have autism? She said, yes, I think so. You know, and she accepted it. And she is doing well because she's accepting it. And the lady just mentioned that at some stage she was employed, and the employer said, you're doing well, but no thank you, bye. And I realized that, yes, it's possible. I might be wrong. May I please be corrected if I mention this? Because the way of doing things, you can think they are antisocial. They are not. They are just doing things their own way. You know, they are not pretending. They not camouflaging. That's how they want to do things. So it's hard for other people to accept that, because sometimes we pretend, you know, you just become bubbly. They don't become bubbly most of the time. They're not bubbly. They're just cool. They don't maybe laugh a lot. So when you're at work, they want you to pretend and to do things which are accepted by many. So that lady is like that, but I just love her because she's very artistic. She likes to draw. She'll send me things. She likes animals. You know, I'm not an animal person, but when you understand people, you develop to like what they like. You know, she's into rabbits, and then you send me a picture of a rabbit. So now I'll go and learn more about rabbits, and then communicate about the subject she wants to communicate, you know. So I think when you said they are honest, Nero, it's so true. They are honest in what they are doing. Yes, I stand to be corrected as well. They don't like to be touched a lot. Human touch. I don't know whether I'm correct. And they want to spend time alone most of the time. And they have challenge in starting a conversation. But then they stick into one topic. Even if people are not interested in that. For example, if he's talking about the rabbit, you just go on and on about the rabbit. So yeah, that is my observation. I might be not precise, but they are lovely people. They stick what they like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And anything to say on that, Harris?
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for sharing that. And it's really lovely that your friend this lady that you know has your support, and that it's so positive, and yeah, it's really lovely. And yeah, a lot of the traits that you described definitely are found a lot in the autistic community, but it's not always the same. I think, you know, if you ever meet an extroverted autistic person, a lot of those things will not be true. They'll be waiting to hug you, even if they'd never met you before, possibly. And, you know, I know that for me, if I spend too long on one conversation, I also get very bored. And for me, the excitement of a conversation is about you know, it's almost like, to me, it's like, it's a skill that I'm really interested in developing. So it's really interesting to me that I can keep a conversation going where the other person is also very fulfilled by the conversation. But I guess not everybody's version of autism is the same as mine. So yeah, you're not wrong, but also I think there are people who don't have those traits necessarily.
Yeah. You see the benefit of having a discussion like this. Now the words that you mentioned, that there are different types of autism, come true, because what she knows about this friend of hers who's autistic, and describing her to you, is what you are not. And
Yeah,
if you're stereotyped, you would say, no, you are wrong. They're not autistic. I'm autistic. I know how to deal with it. I'm living it. But accepting that there are different levels or different types of autism also helps us to deal with other people. I mean, I
yeah,
think it's the same with any other illness. You have different types. For instance, if you're diabetic, you be diabetic number 1 or 2, or however they class it. It's different levels of it. If you have cancer, it also has different levels of it. You may not suffer the same as the other person who's got cancer, because of the different stages that the both of you are in. And we accepting illnesses like that, cancer, because maybe it's common, but we not accepting autism, looking at it as a curse, but not looking at it as maybe a different way of how a person processes, in their life, or they're doing things. I mean, when you say they draw you rabbits, and that's all they will draw you all the time. Some will draw trains. That's all they will draw, because that's the love they have for them. So thank you for sharing that insight, Harris. Um, I've learned things that I didn't know. I thought I knew a little bit about autism, but clearly I don't. I need to go back and research more on it. And I hope that's the feeling that my audience also has, that we have different types of autism, and you just need to know which level it is and how to treat it. But if you class it in one pot, then it's going to be a problem. Either you accept it or you don't accept it, or you accept them or you don't accept them, you know. So in closing, what would you like to say to the people who are now being made aware of what autism is?
yeah. I think the best thing that you can do is just to view this as just another version of how people come. You know, it's
Mm.
nothing to be super worried about. But I think that the world we live in, when it's built for people who are not autistic, it can add to this fear or this taboo or this negative thinking about autism. But I really want the world to value autistic people just as much as anyone else, and to
Mhm.
realize that there's something very positive here that will benefit everybody.
Thank you for those closing remarks. To all our listeners, everyone that's connected on Telegram, on Twitter, on Riverside, we thank you for the support, and we hope that this program this evening has shed a light on you on how you can deal with an autistic person, and how you can make them feel that they are part of the community. They're part of us. You know, they're not aliens. We love them, and if we accept them truly, they will accept us and love us. One thing again, they are loyal. If they love you, they will love you to death. I promise you. So thank you, Harris, for sharing that insight. Thank you, Sister Andy, also
Thank
for your
you.
comments and the experience that you showed, and also the questions from WhatsApp from Hilda. We thank you for those. We hope that we've answered everyone. And if you have any questions, please, when we post this recording, you can use the comment section to ask the questions, and we'll make sure that we answer you. Hopefully, Harris as well will be available to answer the questions. She's a coach, so she's more clued up than any of us here connecting. All right. So, Harris, when are you coming to South Africa?
I mean, I have to let you know, unless somebody wants to buy me a plane ticket, then it might be a while.
Somebody's listening. Yeah, you never know. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone,
thank
for
you.
joining us. And we're looking forward to seeing you our next episode next week, Monday, same time, same place. And this is Naumara Pedi for the host of your NMP talk show. And I'm signing out. You need internet? You need